Before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you about Reliht. Reliht is a brand new web and mobile app, one without distractions of social scrolling and chat. If you're a content creator, coach, mentor, writer, author, teacher, or leader, Reliht gives you a dedicated space to capture what God is speaking, organize your content, and share it with those you lead. Ready to create and share God notes with your followers? As a special launch welcome, sign up is free through September 1st, 2026. Visit relight.com to get started today. That's spelled Reliht, no G. Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristen Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Gretchen Moran to the show. I'm so excited to have her here today. You guys might recognize this name or
Mm.
not, but she was back on the show in 2023, which was over 3 years ago in July, which is wild because I was just saying to her, you were one of the first ones who trusted me to do this podcast. And it was crazy. Wow, 3 years ago. So if you guys want to go check out her story, it was actually done in two parts back on episode 19 and episode 20. So you can go check those out. But I wanted to have her back on because she is just doing some amazing things. And I wanted her to give us an update where she is in life and the organization that she's been working with, which is right up my alley with the name of this organization. So, Gretchen, thanks for coming back again today. For those who don't know you, could you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Oh gosh, how is there a little bit? Because I feel like I'm a lot, Kristen.
Well, you can share a lot if you can share whatever you like, Gretchen.
Well, first and foremost, I am a daughter of the Father in heaven, and everything else just, kind of rests underneath that. And first of all, I gotta apologize for my voice. I sound like I've been like smoking 20 cigarettes today. Some the weather happens and we're just gonna go with it. Anyway, I'm trying to think of where I even left off in my last story, but I am second time married. I'm a mother of three girls, and now I have two grandchildren, 7 and 2, and they are just the joy of my life. And they live close by, so we get to be together a lot. We are new empty nesters. My daughter, Jolie, is now a sophomore at Park University. So we are like a year into this empty nester life, and it took me 2 weeks of like continual emotional crying, and then I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, the house is quiet, and we can have some newfound freedom we never had before. So being a second time married for both of us, I had three kids that I brought to the relationship. So we didn't get a honeymoon phase. Like, we went away and got married. Like, we went to a destination and got married and came home and like started family with two teenagers and a toddler. So, now we like get to enjoy this, being having this freedom, which has really been pretty awesome. So we both have kind of dug into our work, more ministry opportunities. We have more time on our hands to spend with friends and help people with different projects. And so we're not like pigeonholed and being home, all the time to care for children. We can kind of schedule our times with our family and taking care of grandkids and sleepovers and that kind of thing. So it's really just been a joyful part of life, one that I like years ago like dreamed of, and now it's finally here. So it's really been truly a blessing just to be able just to sit in my chair for 2 hours in the morning and be uninterrupted. So it's really wonderful.
Lovely. So for parents who are listening out there, I have a friend who actually, we call it like empty nester, but she said, what if we like, I think there was a friend of hers that said like, well, what if we renamed it to like bird watcher? So then it's not
Ooh,
like empty, like empty sounds really sad, doesn't
yeah,
it? Like,
it can be.
I don't want to be an empty nester. I mean, so what would you say has been like the most, if you were to look at this last couple of years, what has been the most enjoyable time that you've experienced through this?
Enjoyable.
Yeah. Sounds like you really like your 2 hours in the morning.
I do. I love it. I'm sure I'll share more about that later because God has had me on a journey this year, that's for sure. But probably, my favorite part the last couple years, I think, is just seeing where God has brought me throughout my entire life. And I've always had this like inner feeling that He had something great for me to do. Like I could see visions of myself like up on stage speaking in a microphone and talking in front of crowds of people. And, I had no idea what that was going to look like, what it was going to be like. And, for our past beach body days and our past pure days, I thought maybe it would be that. And so I'd like, oh, like I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to get to speak to people and, in these, network marketing organizations. But when this opportunity came to me early last year with Hope is Alive, I didn't really understand at the time when I said yes, that it was going to fulfill in me that dream that God put in my heart years ago to do
How
something
many
big.
years ago? Do you mind me asking?
How many? I mean, Jolie was probably in elementary school, fifth, sixth grade,
Okay.
and she is
So
19 now.
over 10 years.
Yeah, way over 10 years.
Okay.
So yeah. So now it's like I'm finally at the place where I feel like God is truly like using me as a vessel, and just continuing to pour into me. And, I'm just every day I'm like, okay, Lord, like this whole thing is yours. Like you brought me here, like you've equipped me thus far in my life to do this work. And so every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, like I don't know where I'm supposed to go next. So I'm just trusting you with it. So I mean that I think has been the my favorite my favorite part. Yeah.
Okay. Well, take us back to how you came to be part of this organization, Hope is Alive. I'm sure that there's some good stories there that you could.
There are some for sure, and total God story, of course. So, if you caught my last bit of my story about how I came to be a business owner, that is wrapped up into this part of the story. I got introduced to actually the woman that was in this role previous to me. I got introduced to her through a serve day at our church. My husband and I have been leaders and volunteers at Life Church Northland here in Kansas City for really right around the time when we did this last podcast, July 23. So we started going in May, and I think we made it official around July of 2023. So we just like dug in with both feet and decided that we wanted to serve together in ministry because previously we'd always served in different areas. He was like with the deacons, or, we were at the mobile church for a while. And so he was on the setup crew, and I was on the worship team and doing admin stuff or hostess or holding babies or, all these different things. But we never did something together. So when God brought us to Life Church, we decided that we were going to do ministry together and really saw God making drastic moves in the youth department. So we decided we were going to sign up to be youth group leaders, and we have just loved every minute of it. Well, the next year, that fall, they were doing a service project. And so they opened it up to all of the youth groups, leaders. I started with the sixth grade girls, and I'll stay with them until they graduate. And so at this time, I think they were in seventh grade. My husband was high school boys. So I was there at the home because we were doing the service project, and I met the lady that was doing this work. And so being the natural connector that I am, I invited her to all of my networking groups because she was from the Southland, not from there. She was living in the Southland of Kansas City. I'm from the Northland. So I was trying to help her get connected with people and just introducing her to people I knew that were, of faith and church and might want to get plugged in. So she'd been coming to some of these meetings, and probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, 7 months later, we were having coffee, and she says, I feel like the Lord is telling me that I need to talk to you about an opportunity. And I was like, I'm listening. And she's like, well, my husband Nick and I and the kids are moving back to Oklahoma. And I think you would be perfect for this job. And would you prayerfully consider it? And I was like, well, I need to know more about what you do. I mean, I could see, from the outside kind of what she did, and trying to grow the organization, but like talk to me about the nuts and bolts and what this is. And so essentially she does fundraising, which is zero part of my past. I mean, I was an admin girl, like you give me a list of to-dos and I'll just go knock it out. But,
Right.
you know, being polished and going and talking to people, we're talking like business leaders, church leaders, people who run organizations to ask them to donate to our organization. That was not my experience at all. So I'm like,
Never.
I don't know how I can help you at all.
Not even
And she's like, Gretchen, you are such a connector. And that's what really makes this job so perfect for you because people, and you know people that know people. So, you've already been like boots on the ground and, can just go and connect some more.
yeah.
So she invited me to one of their fundraising events they were having and got to have a conversation with her boss. And great conversation. They invited me down to their networking or their fundraising event in Oklahoma the next month. So each of the markets that we have these fundraising events. And so went down to meet with them, go to their event, met with her boss again and the founder of the organization. They're in Oklahoma City, where they're based out of. Had a great conversation. Absolutely. They fell in love with me. I fell in love with them. It was like such a total perfect fit for what they were looking for. And I didn't know I wasn't looking for anything, at that point. It's like my plate was full, girl. I was already spinning like 10 plates, and I thought, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And her boss asked me, he's like, so I know you're already, you got a lot of stuff going on. How are you gonna have time to do this? And I said, well, honestly, God's gonna have to show me what I have to lay down in order to take this and do it well.
Yeah.
So, I had started my business as a professional organizer back in 2018. And so, I knew that some part of that was going to have to lay down. And also I was working part-time for a small community here in the Northland in the Chamber of Commerce and their Economic Development Council. So I worked for them part-time as well as my business and still, running the back end of things for my husband's side of the business. He's a handyman. So, still doing all of that. Plus, all of my volunteer work at church and running my BNI meeting. So, there's all of these things. I was like, I'm still just like spinning all these plates. So anyway, after, a lot of prayer and conversations with my husband, the Lord asked me to lay down my side of the business. And I gave notice at my job. And on June 30th of last year was my first day at Hope is Alive. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. So the laying down process, how was that for you? Was
rough.
yeah.
It was rough.
What did that look like? Because I think maybe some people might be in that transition right now
Yeah.
and or being led into something like that. I feel like a lot of people are in transition right now and are
Yeah.
being called to lay things down. And yeah, could you tell us maybe a little bit more
Yeah.
about that process?
Well, probably to explain that, I probably need to go back to when I first started my business. And I know you and I have had conversation about this before, and I'm sure I probably shared it in my previous conversation with you, but in 2018, I found out my job was being downsized and they were consolidating all of our positions in Kansas City and they were moving them to Texas where their main office was. And so I was faced with the decision. I had 30 days to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my life and what do I do? Go find another job somewhere. And so during that time, I was going through a 5-week journey of prayer virtually with a group of ladies. And so I was just praying about it. I asked them to pray, God, what am I supposed to do? I have no idea. And God literally gave me a download of my business and what I was supposed to do. Being a professional organizer, he gave me the name of it, the colors I was supposed to use, and just how I'm supposed to reach people. And I set up from that vision because I'm like on my knees just praying in the dark. And It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I sat up and I'm like, you want me to do what? Like, I've never started a business, like owned a business. I mean, not like a legitimate business, like I don't know the first thing how to do this. And so that was the very beginning of that. And so just growing that business from the ground up, just from, my own skill and ability and what I did in my corporate career, it was just one conversation after the next and getting involved in networking groups and meeting people and talking to people, building relationships with people. And never did I spend money on marketing. Like, I don't know that I ever paid for a Facebook ad, like none of that. And so I knew very quickly by what God wanted me to do and how to grow that business was just going to be by word of mouth. That's why networking groups were so important to me and just building, authentic, organic relationships with people. And that was very fruitful for me. I mean, so that was 2019 when I joined BNI as this networking group. And then, running very successfully. I mean, God taught me so much through that experience. And that was part of my story. That's part of what the equipping was for me to get to where I am now, because this is my third time being president of the chapter. And, so I'm literally up in front of the group running the meeting every week. And before, when I was in corporate, I was the one behind the desk, like making meetings happen. I was not the person in front of the room running the meeting. So, this was just part of the equipping that God was, letting me walk through to prepare me for this. And so, learning everything that I learned in my previous business, and then I'm faced with this decision of, do I say yes to this?
Mm.
And I had a lot of tears and a lot of not arguments, but very strong words with the Lord, because Lord, you gave me this.
Yeah.
And now you're asking me to lay it down. Like,
Yeah.
it was hard. It
Yeah.
was hard. So, I mean,
I feel it.
but when God makes something very clear,
Mhm.
I knew that if he was asking me to lay something down and give something up, that it was going to be for a really good reason. And that he was, the fruit that was going to come from it was going to be way more than I ever could have accomplished in my business. So even just, a year later, a year into this, a little over a year now, it's like I've been able to touch so many more lives
Mhm.
than just working, one-on-one with my clients. And I'm gonna grab a tissue.
You're
Um,
good. Yeah. So tell us like kind of what that has looked like. Just even maybe the first few months that you were stepping into something that you never had done before. Like I think a lot of times, well, we are called into things that we have never done before, right? And it's uncomfortable. And I think a lot of times, well, we have a choice. Are we going to say yes or are we going to say no? And I think more than often, people actually say no because they don't feel qualified. They
yeah.
don't feel like they're good enough, all the things that come for them. What did that first few months look like for you stepping into this? And was your husband on board? What did that look like? Because I know how close you guys are with all the things.
Yeah.
So it's two questions. Start whichever one you'd like first. Ever hear something on this show that stirs something deep, like a nudge from God that there's more? That's stirring. It's not random. I'm Kristen Kurtz, host of Hope Unlocked and the founder of New Wings Coaching, and I'm inviting you into a 45-minute unlocking session, a sacred space to press in, hear what heaven is saying, and activate your next bold step. If you're a trailblazer or kingdom voice ready to break free from doubt and live fully alive, this is for you. Book now at newwingscoaching.net/hope unlocked for special listener pricing. You were born to live uncaged and unapologetically bold. Now back to the show.
The buy-in from my husband, I mean, that was immediate. And when the offer came to me, we were actually on our anniversary trip. It was our 16th wedding anniversary last year. So, we're sitting in this little winery that had opened, a lady that I'd met through the chamber, and they opened this little winery. And so we went out to go check it out. And I'm sitting there like reading through it. And I'm look at him and I was like, how do I say no to this? Like they were offering me a nice salary for a nonprofit plus, some bonus incentives plan and plus, I mean, a whole list of like health benefits and, also insurance and like this whole like list of all of these things that, were available to me through this work. And he looked at me and he was just like, well, babe, this is like a no-brainer. I was like, well, easy for you to say. I'm the one that has to give something up that I love, you know. So, but for him, this was an easy decision for him. And I think too for him, sure, it was maybe a small part of that was just the stability and a salary every month or, and when you own a business, it's like it fluctuates so much and like you don't know what you're going to be able to count on depending on how many clients you have that month. So cash flow is an issue. So I think, that was definitely a factor in part of that decision. So, but even from the very beginning, he was, I mean, full support of, he's like, whatever you decide, he's like, I'm gonna support you on that. So yeah. As far as like the first few weeks, my very first day, so I drove down to Oklahoma and they did the onboarding process with me because they had to give me a laptop and, all the, stuff that goes with it and some initial training and all of that goodness. And being a part of like an office setting for a few days was kind of cool because like I hadn't had that for a while. So that was kind of neat, just the camaraderie that's there. And, everyone is so friendly and welcoming. And I haven't talked much about what Hope is Alive is. And so that plays a little bit more into, you talked about the aspect of, feeling qualified in the work. So Hope is Alive, we have 27 recovery homes around the country for drug addicts and alcoholics, and we have support groups for their families. And two of those recovery homes are here in Kansas City. And so what I get to do as community development coordinator is develop relationships with people in the community to help support our homes, because everything that we do is with our residents in mind and making sure that the home is well cared for. They have food to eat. They have, community resources around them, as well as the funding that goes along to make sure the operations of both the houses stay in the black. So that's my job and be able to grow so that we can get more homes in Kansas City. So that's part and parcel of what I do. The other part that a lot of people don't know is that 80% of our staff are in recovery. Yeah. So I'm one of the small percentage of folks who we call them normies. Like I don't have an addiction past. And so our program is set up as such as our residents come through the program, and it's an 18 to 24-month program where we are a completely Christ-centered organization because we believe Jesus is the healing. So they come through this program and it's a very well-structured long-term program. And when they get to a few months down, they, need to kind of have their feet in the water a little bit with the program. But then they are offered an opportunity to apply for our boot camp program. And so it's kind of a full immersive invitation for folks that are in the program to come to the home offices in Oklahoma City and see what Hope is Alive is all about and explore the idea of coming on staff with us. So, when you have staff members that have been through the journey, it's just so much more deep and meaningful to be able to help others who are going through the same thing that you did. So our founder, Lance Lang, he and his wife are the founders that started this program. This whole organization was birthed out of his own addiction. He had a pill addiction. And so, because of his journey and, how he was able to get through it and how he was able to get through it is like, that's the reason why, this organization exists. And so he was, he and his wife believed very confidently that, when we offer this to other people that want to help other people come through the program, there's just going to be, even more success and more lives changed. So it's just been an integral part of how our organization continues to grow. And, we lose people along the way. And, I found kind of our turnover rate. I'm not sure quite what it is, but, when you come through the program for 2 years and then you're on staff maybe for a couple years, you might want to get away from Hope is Alive and go do something else. So, there's always like growth and, new things, more residents coming through the program and more opportunity to get people plugged in. So when I say that I did not feel qualified really to do this work because it was not part of my history, I definitely felt qualified in the aspect that I knew this world because my first husband is an alcoholic and a drug addict. And so I lived 13 years with someone who never sought sobriety until after I left. So, I feel like I do have, my heart is definitely to want to see, people get freed from addiction, to find sobriety, live in sobriety, and live in community with others, and to find healing through Jesus. I mean, all of that long story to say, I know that I am equipped to do this work. Did I have the job experience? No, but that doesn't mean I wasn't qualified for it.
So good. And it's almost like you have a resume, right?
Yeah.
But does that resume have to be perfectly carried over to qualify you for what
Right.
you're qualified for?
Exactly.
I've
Exactly.
said to people before, like sometimes the only letters you need behind your name, I shouldn't say the only, well, really, the only letters you need behind your name are GOD, really.
Mm,
I mean, yes, go get training, do all the things, put those
right.
in your name, but the main ones that matter are GOD. Like,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
I feel like I have to sneeze, so I'm going to keep talking. I might mute myself in a
Look up
second.
to the light.
It's so funny. Before we got started, I'm like, I feel like I have to sneeze, but I haven't sneezed yet. So I wanted to, so names are really important to me. So Hope is Alive is just a beautiful name for an organization. What do you know the reason that he chose the name Hope is Alive?
I mean, I've heard bits and pieces of the story. I don't know all of the exact story. He actually wrote a book called Hope is Alive. And I think if I know any part of the story, it's that when Lance went to a treatment center, he came out of that treatment center and quickly, I think, understood that if he was going to stay sober, he was going to have to do it in community. So he invited 4 or 5 guys that he went through the program with to come live with him, and he bought a house and invited those guys to come live with him because he knew that if he was gonna stay sober, he needed to have community because that's what he had found when he was at Rob's Ranch was the name of the place down in Texas. And you know living in community, it's a little easier to stay sober when you're with a bunch of people that are also trying to stay sober. And recovery homes are not anything new. I mean, they've been around, they're all over the country, but he knew that he needed to do this differently. And that aspect of it was putting Jesus at the middle of it. And with Jesus in the middle of it, there's hope. And so, just infusing hope into everything that we do. I mean, that's, part of the culture. And at Hope is Alive, as we bring hope to people. This program brings hope to people too. It brings hope to the parents who drop their kids off in front of our homes and, leaving them. Maybe they were homeless or, lost a job or they've come from prison or jail or the streets or, whatever situation they've come from. They come and they're walking into a home that is full of hope. And so, we offer not only the families, but also those that are coming to be residents in our program. We're offering them hope because we believe Jesus is that hope and he is healing. So, yeah,
Great. How many, I think you said there's 27 homes.
27 homes.
For those who are listening, is this all US based homes?
They are.
They're all US.
Yeah.
And is it are there a lot of homes in certain areas or maybe people
So we're
site?
based out of Oklahoma City. And so there's several homes around the Oklahoma City area, men's and women's homes. We
Okay.
have several in the Tulsa area as well. And then we have a home out in Weatherford, Texas, or Weatherford, Oklahoma, which is like Western Oklahoma. We're also in Dallas, Fort Worth area, a men and women's home there. We have homes in Wichita. We have a home in men's home in Colorado Springs. And then we have two homes here, a men and a women's home. And then we have homes out in North Carolina as well, two different communities out there.
Okay.
So yeah,
Is
we're
he
kind of
hoping to like
spread around.
go to each state? Is that kind of the hope, unintended?
I mean, that's the hope. I mean, we want to be in every state in the union and abroad.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I mentioned earlier we have our support groups. So we have multiple support groups that meet in churches and communities around the country. But we also have this last year we have a virtual group that's meeting in Mexico and one in Australia. So yeah, people are hearing about us. We have a YouTube page. Our directors have a podcast that they do just called Finding Hope. And then they do some they do some retreats. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Pause. We're gonna take a drink for a moment.
Good idea. I've got my throat coat.
Mhm. It's always good to have some electrolyte water too on my end.
Yes. Yeah, for
Stop
sure.
sneezes. I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
So you
So
have YouTube. You guys have a YouTube channel, a
yeah,
podcast.
our YouTube channel, our in-person support groups, and then we have several that meet on Zoom all over the country. And then several times throughout the year, they have in-person retreats happening for the Finding Hope groups as well as Hope After Loss. So really just having a sense of community for those folks that have lost a loved one.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't fathom what that would be like losing someone to addiction, but I talk to parents all the time who've lost a loved one to addiction. And so having just that support and community around them is very valuable.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, like, are let's just say, somebody's in Florida, can they take part in these virtual support groups as well? She's grabbing a drink of tea. It's okay. So while we're waiting, yeah, I think this is really amazing. And as you guys can probably hear why I wanted to have Gretchen on today, because Hope Unlocked is all about, bringing hope to the world and through different organizations and people and hearing people's stories. And I love that, Gretchen came on 3 years ago and shared her story, and now she's even being a greater conduit of hope. So how you doing? How you doing over there? Just a little bit. She's having a little coughing fit, so you'll have to listen to me. Oh, Jesus. You're good. I'm going to pause the recording for a moment. And we're back. Gretchen's back. We're good to go. I think my sneeze is holding off. The coughing's good to go. So I think my question that I left off with, so if there's somebody like that isn't in the area where the homes are, can they take part in any support groups? What might that look like for people who are not part of or nearby? What would you say to that?
Hmm. Well, that's a great question. I mean, if families are looking for support, in our Finding Hope and Hope After Loss groups, just walking alongside of someone that's currently in addiction, or you don't know where to go, or you're just needing, just support from a community. I mean, getting plugged into a group is foundational. And I would say it's probably likened to Al-Anon. So, very early on in my married life, when my girls were young, I joined an Al-Anon group that was meeting at my church. And not having grown up with someone who was an alcoholic in my family, I had no idea like what is codependent? I don't even know what that is, but I was sure living as one. So, it was a great group that just kind of provided education and, just helped me keep my focus on my faith and establishing boundaries. And so I just learned a lot. So that's what our Finding Hope groups do is, just providing that sense of community. So we have groups that are, you can go to our website and look to see where groups are meeting. There might be one in your area. And then we do have groups that meet on Zoom as well.
Okay. You have Zoom groups as well. What
Yeah.
is the website just for somebody who's, wanting to jot that down or head to the
Yeah,
website?
it's hopeisalive.net.
Okay.
And they can go there to get more information on our programs, what all we do. And then there's a button up there if they want to donate, they can obviously donate. We definitely need support. We are a 501(c)(3) and do need to, you know, pay the bills from take care of our homes, take care of our residents. So that's what the funding goes for. And then if someone's interested and they need help, we have an 800 number.
Oh,
And so that's listed on the website as well.
okay.
And they can call and, just get ask questions, get support. And we have there's an application on the website also. So if someone is looking for, a place to go and, they just want to know more about our program, they can fill out it's just a simple little Google form
Oh,
on the website to apply. And then I will say also, sometimes, people don't know what it takes to get into our program and maybe we're not the right fit for them. So we keep a full list of other programs and services that might be in your area. So we have a pretty comprehensive list of other support services in and around most areas around the country because we don't want someone to call and be like, "Oh, well, you're not a fit for us, click buy." But, if we're not a fit for that, here's some really great organizations in your area that are doing great work, and here's a phone number to at
okay.
least give you a call. Yeah,
That's incredible. And like, so they've kind of been vetted too. So it's not like you're having
right.
to just be like, what do
Yeah,
I
we're not
call?
just Googling and, oh, here, call this place, but
That is incredible. So that's on the website as well.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
the 800 number.
Amazing resource. Like it just reminds me of, it's basically like a collaboration in essence, right? It's not this competition, even though it's not necessarily, you know what I mean? Back when we
Yeah,
were doing some kingdom business stuff, it was
yes,
like that is such a collaboration mindset rather than, oh, well, we're the only one who can help you, right?
right,
That's
right.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are people that, are looking for, a recovery home. And if they're on certain medications, they're not going to be a fit for us because we're not supervised by medical professionals. And there are some recovery homes that are. And we're not we are peer led. So, I mentioned earlier about how we have our staff people have come through our program. Some of them do have some certifications if they've gone on to get certified in, some specific area around substance use disorder. So we do have some folks that have that, but it's not a requirement for them to be on staff and be program managers over the homes. So since we are peer led, it, we're just not the right fit for someone who may need medical assistance in some way with a medication, or maybe they have, some other like a mental health disorder where they're, if it's schizophrenia or, major, other depressive type situations, because we really want to have safety in our homes, so we have to have the right person that's, struggling with addiction, but, doesn't have a whole list of all these other mental health issues going along with it. So, we want to be the right fit.
Do you guys have any events coming up soon? I think you might have
We
some.
do have events coming up all over the country. We have a 5K that's getting ready to happen this Saturday in several of our markets. Here in Kansas City, we're doing a virtual 5K. So all of our residents will be meeting up at a park in Parkville and doing some of them will run or do a little walk or something And so folks can have signed up to do like a virtual run. But in some of our other markets in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and Weatherford and Colorado Springs, and I'm not sure who else, that might be it, are doing actual 5Ks. So, and they're a pretty big deal. The one in Oklahoma City, it's a pretty big deal. So, it's super fun. And then,
Saturday, August, end of August here.
yeah,
We're
it's
recording.
the 29th, yeah, in the morning. So, yeah, that's coming up, which is great. Our next event after that, we all have golf tournaments coming up. And that's our next big event here in Kansas City. And any of those golfers that want to come play, we somehow got an in at a private course here in Kansas City. So we'll be there October 12th. And so golf tournaments will be happening around the country for several of our markets, and opportunities for people to sponsor. If they want to play, they can bring a team, donate some raffle prizes, or some cool sports memorabilia. That seems to be a thing where we have, a silent auction. So all of those fun kinds of events happening coming up. And then at the end of the year, in November, we have our fall event in all of our markets called Nights in November. And this event started out as a little small intimate gathering inside each of the homes. And so we just invite people that are interested, that want to learn more, that want to give, to come be a part of this kind of more intimate dinner inside the home. So that'll be happening all around the country and all of the markets between October and November. And incidentally, ours will be the day after the golf tournament because all of our events team will be here. Our founder and his wife are having a baby in November, so they won't be traveling to these events. So we're trying to double up some events in some of our markets to kind of relieve Lance and some of our others. That we actually have the director of our media team. They're also having a baby. So babies are happening in November, so we've had to kind of juggle around our other events because he does such a great job in going to each of our markets and trying to be a presence at all of our different spaces. So
What an
it'll be a fun
incredible
year.
wow. I'm so excited for you and I'm excited for them to have you. So
Oh, thank
well,
you.
as we wrap up today, I just want to make sure that you guys know I'm going to have all the information in the show notes. But if you could just say the name or the website again, we'll link it in the show notes, like I mentioned.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to hopeisalive.net.
Okay.
You can also find us on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're in all the places where you can hear all the latest and greatest, see some educational information. You can hear about our new healing center that we just opened down in just outside Oklahoma City, all the new and great, wonderful ways that we are supporting those that are struggling with addiction and loving on all their families.
Oh, beautiful. What is the name of the podcast? Is it Hope is Alive?
Yeah.
Okay. Everything's just we keep it
Hope is
simple.
alive. Hope is alive Ministries, I think is what it's called.
So as you guys hear, hope is alive. And it is alive. It really is alive. Well, you have definitely been an IV of hope here for us today. And if you remember, I really do this for the one. So if you could just think of that one who's listening in today. Do you have any other words of wisdom or encouragement that you'd want to share over this one who's listening?
I just love that you just said that because at every one of our events, Lance always tells us, there's going to be one person at an event or a family member of someone that is there. And so as we're like writing, our material for whatever is going to be happening, whatever event it is, like we have to keep the one person in mind of who that message is for, because it could just be for one person. Like this podcast could be for one person and it's gonna, spark in them something, to get involved, to go help a family member, have that intervention with someone who's struggling, or hey, I have my best friend has been living on the streets for 2 years and I just need to send a text message to let them know I'm thinking about them or praying for them. So it's like every single time that all of us on staff get to speak or share anything, I'm always thinking of, okay, who's there's one person that's going to hear what I have to say and it's going to touch them in some way. So it's so cool that you said that.
Wow. Yeah, and it's like the Lord was showing me years ago that, I math mathing is 1 times 1 equals 1, which is just one, right?
Yeah, that's
But
right.
he was showing me that 1 times 1 in the kingdom is exponential because that one gets touched and then they go impact one, they go impact, and you don't even know. So that's
Yeah.
why I always think of, in doing a podcast, you don't really know who's listening. So I always have that one in
Mhm.
mind. So thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay, this has been amazing. I am going to close with the Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It's may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13, one of my favorites. So I'm sure that's probably one for Hope is Alive as well, I imagine.
It is. I actually have it framed on my desk
Oh,
and I write it in like all of my thank you cards that I send to people. So
it's
that
full of love.
verse.
Love it. It's beautiful. Well, Gretchen, you're amazing. Yeah, if you want to hear her story, the fullness of her story, go back to episode 19 and episode 20. And I so appreciate you being here
Yeah,
today. And thank you
thank
for
you.
being a brave voice who's setting
Mm,
so many free. I
yeah,
will be back with another episode next week. Thanks, listeners. Thanks, Gretchen.
thank you.